Greetings, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Federation's Most Wanted, a Blake 7 podcast. I'm the Preacher 711, and I'm on a mission to seek, locate, and interview fans from across the Blake 7 fanverse. Today, I'm joined by celebrated author Robin Triggs. Robin,
Hello.
welcome, sir.
Thank you. It's lovely to be in the Federation once more.
We've tracked you down finally after months of seeking you and combing the dark corners of the galaxy. For those that don't know you, Robin, you and I have interacted for quite some time now on Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a writer of a trilogy of successful books. Do you want to quickly tell the guys about that?
Yeah, I write a trilogy called, the Antarctic Trilogy. They're all set in the Antarctic, that's why. Called Night Shift, Human Resources, and the last one's New Gods. First two are out on Tree Press, and the last one's self-published, and they're all really good.
They are indeed.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I've left my reviews online. I've circulated them around the campfire. What are you working on at the moment, mate? Are you on another novel now?
I am. I've been working on another trilogy, an urban fantasy trilogy, which doesn't have a name yet. In fact, the name of the first one has been Oniromancer for ages, but customer feedback says, or beta reader feedback says that that's not going to cut it. So we're currently without a name. But yes, urban fantasy set in slightly alternate London, where the dream world is an alternate dimension that we can cross into, and various nasty things can cross back.
Oh, cool! I like that. And people that regularly follow me on Twitter might also know you from. I'm a huge fan of your Friday morning blog.
Yes,
you put out.
Yeah, thank you again for all your support that you've given me over the months and years.
Yeah, it's just fantastic because it's. I think one of the things that really draws me to it is how much kind of synergy there is between the obstacles you find in the world of writing versus what I find in the world of game making and sort of tech development. Really, we seem to, whenever you put one out, I kind of read it and go, oh yeah, that's the same. Yeah, definitely. It's just a different. Particularly the ones where I think the ones that really I felt terribly sorry for you was when you first joined a fellow writers group, and you were getting them to sort of QA your work, and that made me feel tense for you.
That's yes, I'm sadly, it is sad, but I'm writers group 3 at the moment. But no, I've got a great deal from writers group, and I do encourage anybody interested in writing to go down that avenue. But you have to find the right one for you, and I've bumbled along finding the wrong ones for me a couple of times, and I'm taking a well-earned breather from it. That and having a small person around who doesn't let me go out when I will. Yes, I'm introspective at the moment.
So, out of curiosity, when you write one of your novels, what's kind of the time scale from sort of initial inception to a finished product that you could potentially put to market?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a really difficult thing to answer because if you talk about first inception, it can be we're talking years.
Okay.
We're talking I'd say at least 3 years before you have something workable. Before I have something workable. I shouldn't say one has something workable, because this is a very personal and individual thing. Night Shift was about 6 years, I think, with various editings, and it sort of depends when you call it. The very first idea can take a long time and can have false starts and restarts and reboots and once rejigging. But if you close it from the first draft might only take, I think Night Shift only took 1 or 2 months to write in first draft. But then the first draft invariably isn't very good. So then you take as long as you need to make it better, to make it work. And there are times you're just waiting on feedback, you're waiting on other people, and you're waiting on, if you get that far, you're waiting on publishers to do things. So you're talking, it is a how long is a piece of string thing.
Okay.
It is everybody is different, and every book is different. But I would say it would take me at least 3 years from inception to something I am proud to put out into the world.
I was really surprised. Sorry.
No, I was going to say the other thing is that I am an idiot. I think the first draft is really good when I write it, and I think the second draft is really good when I write it, and I think the third draft, this must be ready by now. It must be perfect. There must be no bugs, no flaws in it. It must be perfect. And then you get feedback. And then, or at some point you get feedback and they say, you are wrong, young man. I'd be very grateful if they said young man, but they say, they say you are wrong. And then you've got to go back and do it again. And then you think it's perfect again. And all this stage you're thinking, I've got something really good. And it's never finished until it's out in the world. And even then you can see instantly all the errors you've made. Sorry,
have you ever had the likes of the Netflix come knocking on the door for things like Night Shift or Human Resources?
Not yet. Would love, I'd love to see it on some sort of other media. I think it'd make quite a good computer game as well.
Indeed, if only we knew somebody that could do that. But it struck me with the first book in particular that I really could have seen that as one of those quite creepy 6-part shows on Netflix. It definitely had that vibe where you could have easily chopped it into 6 little segments and made something great out of it.
It would be lovely to see. I mean, I think it's a lot of it's a question of exposure. Have you got the people at the publishers or your agent? Are they pitching it out to people? Are they telling Netflix or whoever else that this exists? And I mean, there's a critical mass when you just get enough readers that it spills over into the world of popular culture. But so as a not particularly well-known author like me, it's about having resources at your disposal to spread that message to the people who can make decisions.
Okay. And have you ever been tempted to write a Blake 7 piece for any of the anthologies and stuff?
My GCSE mock GCSE was Blake 7 fan fiction.
Wow.
My more English GCSE. That's when I was watching them all through, everything like that. But I think I would love to write some Blake 7 for one of the anthologies and stuff like that. They've kind of I'm not quite plugged in enough to the sources. I'm getting there with Twitter and I'm finding my way, but I think I'd need a total rewatch as well, which would be no bad thing, of course.
But we're back to the demon of time and life and little people.
Yes, absolutely. The demon of little people. Absolutely.
Yeah, indeed. So we're going to jump straight into some questions, if you don't mind, sir.
Yeah, I do not
I'm going to hit you with the questions that I've been asking around the campfire. So how and when did Blake 7 come into your life?
It is the very first television memory of my life.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good thing to be able to say on a Blake 7 podcast. I've been saving that my whole life. I have. It's the very first thing I can remember watching on television. So I guess it would have been a repeat, but it would be from like 1981 or 2. So it might just have been the very tail end of it. But I can remember the scene, sort of greenish planet, and they're all materializing there. So right from when I can remember television, it's been with me. I think I was just a little too young to actually remember certainly the early series, but it's been a constant for me my whole life.
Looking back at all the different series of the show, what series are you? What's the one that resonates with you the most, would you say?
I think, I don't know. I think I can't decide whether it's A or D. It's the beginning or the end. I think I love series D. I think that's my favorite. But I think the one that sort of accompanied me most is A, with Blake and with the Liberator and with the real beginnings of the fight. That does does resonate with me.
It's been quite surprising, actually, the amount of people that I think unanimously so far, everybody we've had on has said D is the favourite, which is I wasn't expecting. So it's great, brilliant. And would you say you're Team Blake or are you Team Avon?
Definitely Avon. Definitely Avon. I think anything with Avon and Villa is where I am. Possibly on the sidelines, possibly a good distance away, but on a different ship or a different planet, I can cope with that. Yes, yes. Anything. I think I'm definitely Team Avon.
Favorite episode that you can remember?
No, I don't remember episode titles very well, I'm afraid. I watched it all through just before my GCSEs, and it just has become an all-pervasive mass of rebellion, and so I can't remember episode titles very well. One I do remember, Rumors of Death, very clearly, so I might have to say that.
But it's a great episode. Why not?
Yes, because it's obviously was there and resonated enough for me to hold on to that. So I'll stick with that.
So would you say Liberator or Scorpio? What are you?
Well, I think I am Scorpio. I love Slave. I think Slave is fantastic. It's Peter Tuddenham, isn't it? It's the same voice. Yeah. And I think the sort of dirty, cramped, confined space really, again, has that sense of desperation and urgency. But Liberator's a classic. Liberator is the classic, I think. Out of the two of them, people remember. I say my answer is Scorpio, but you cannot turn away from the classic.
Again, it's great how I think that's been everybody's answer. Everybody's picked one and then immediately gone, but the other one is pretty good.
It's remarkable how well Blake Seven did a lot of things well, considering it had no budget, and a lot of it is, in hindsight, a bit shonky, but it got big things right and did things right. A bit like Doctor Who has got all of its actors have been really good, and it's nailed the big things, even if the little things are a bit things you could buy down Poundland feel to it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's whenever I've kind of talked about it in the past to people, it's always been the characterization at the core of it is so right. And I think you can forgive a lot of other things if that core middle bit of its soul is right. Three-dimensional characters. I think so. I think anything where you can go, that person reacted to that situation in a way I can find 100% believable, and it's true to their character. And I think back then, certainly, we had a lot of shows that were kind of what I call like episode of the week. It was like the Star Treks and whatever, where you could pretty much throw them up in the air and watch them in any order, and there was no consequence to anything. And I think it was unique in that characters grew and changed because of the events that preceded them. And I think that's what I've also always loved, is that kind of
absolutely
arc and evolution.
And everybody's slightly dirty in it.
Slightly grimy. Everyone needs a bath. And, no, definitely. I totally agree. And your earlier point really about sort of the claustrophobia of Scorpio. I've always loved that shift from the sort of almost opulence of Liberator. We don't have to worry about fuel. We don't have to worry about food. It's all brilliant. It's virtually indestructible. To suddenly this ship that we've suddenly got to put fuel in the tank. There's no real sleeping quarters other than the flight deck, and it's all a bit rubbish. I thought it was a great move. So Travis 1 or Travis 2, Stephen Greif or Brian Croucher? Where do you go?
I think they were both great. When I was watching the whole thing, I must confess I didn't really notice a difference. I know that this is anathema to many hardcore serious people, and I will be cast into the outer darkness. But I can't tell the difference between them. I think they were both very well picked, and I think they were both and did a great job.
I think one of the things from when I was certainly a kiddie, and I came properly into the show in series C, and only saw bits of A and B via some VHS tapes that we had back when they were like gold. You know, we were fortunate that Dad was well into tech, so we had really early doors had a VHS. So my experience, Travis, was quite limited just from these little bits of episodes.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I was confused when in Series D another guy shows up with an eye patch and I was a bit like, is that the same guy, or is that what's going on there?
I like to retrofit it like that Travis is a rank like James Bond is supposed to be. And they take the Travises, the most reckless commanders and the most aggressive commanders, and say, right, you are now Commander Travis. You will go out and capture Blake or Avon or whoever else we tell you to. And then when he dies, you just get another one.
Get another Travis out of the box. And
it's funny you should say about the VHS though, because it just reminded me that we watched them all from the library.
Oh, wow, okay.
We had them the Bradford Central Library where I was living, well, in whose environs I was living at the time, had the complete series. And so every week, me and my mum, I watched it with my mum, would go and get the next one or two tapes, pay about £2, and watch the whole run through together. And it was a magnificent experience. And so here's to libraries as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly did me the world of good at school. Like I say, in about 19, it would have been in 81, I guess. You know, being one of the only kids that had a video recorder, being able to have friends over and go, look, you can watch Blake Seven from the past using this magic box. You know, that was quite a currency when it was at its kind of height.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, to be able to do that. But then it wasn't for years until sort of the commercial releases of them really that I was then able to kind of fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so the end of the series, gunfight, death, Gouda Prime in the episode Blake. Who survived in your mind, in your head canon? Did anybody survive?
Well, I think they all survived. I think they were firing tranq darts or something similar. I don't see that there's much to gain from killing them for Servalan. I think that she wants the information and she wants to be able to unleash them as secret weapons in her mission to secure power for herself. So I think who was first? Avon was first shot, wasn't he?
No, he's last. He's last man
he's
standing.
Last. That's right. That's right. Because the first one was shot by a different person, weren't they?
Yeah. So Villa's shot from off screen. So Villa's first down, really.
So I'm not sure, but as one of your guests pointed out, Villa would find a way to get out of it. So I'm not convinced. Should we put it that way? I'm not convinced that any of them died. We will gladly have that debate with somebody.
Okay, no, that's great. I'll take that. I always remember showing one of my own kids many decades ago the series we did a watch through.
Yeah,
and they were absolutely convinced as soon as the gunshot goes off and Villa hits the deck. I remember them turning to me and saying, "Dad, Villa's not dead." And I love that nearly unanimously everybody sees that as soon as they look at it. There is no way that Villa's dead. So what would be your Blake Seven wish to the gods that control such things for us as a fandom? You know, do you want a sequel series, a remake, reboot, recast, little action figures, Blu-rays?
Well,
you've got the power, make it happen.
I'd love to see. I haven't got a Blu-ray player, but I'd love to see Blu-rays produced. I'd love to see a real, proper, loving collection of the whole thing. And I would like to see a series sequel. Not necessarily a reboot, although I think there'd have to be some degree of rebooting. But something that acknowledges that this group has existed. So it's not just a start from scratch. Why no? So those are my two wishes. I'm getting greedy here. I just want it all. I'd love to see that world continue with maybe a desiccated Empress Servalan presiding over it all for a new generation. Well, I
Yeah,
just did Star Trek actually. Yeah, like we did the Next Generation. Just everything before exists, but you start again from scratch.
absolutely. That's very much. I mean, there's a. I don't know if you saw. There's a fan book recently that came out, Vindictus, that came out just before Christmas. That kind of does the whole a new generation almost of
Yeah,
rebels rising up sort of 30 years later. And it was certainly one of the things I was when I was a boy, and like you say, writing your own little fan fiction at the time.
yeah,
I always felt that it should be, the offspring of the Blake clone or something like that, someone that could legitimately still be called Blake. Leading a new band of rebels with obviously an aging villa in the corner.
Of course.
There would have to be an Aurak. You couldn't do it without Aurak.
And
we do miss him.
Yes, indeed, and good computer support.
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
Son of Slave or something.
Well, Slave's a computer, right? It could have been fixed.
Absolutely,
It's there in the woodlands. Somebody with some IT tech savvy, get out there now with a spanner, and surely we can put Slave back together. No computer's ever dead.
Absolutely.
It can be fixed. I don't know how much of this you're aware of, but there was all the talk at the time of the episode Star One that the Andromedan aliens that would invade the galaxy were going to be Daleks. How did you ever feel about that? Would you like to have seen a Dalek crossover?
I do like crossovers, generally speaking. I like that universe. I think I would have been positive towards it. I mean, when I was a child, Doctor Who was my world. So I've got, if Blake 7 had somehow turned out to be part of that universe, or the other way around, then I'd have been delighted. I think when I was younger. There's no problem with there being two wonderful things. You heard of the Box of Delights debate?
No.
The Box of it's supposed to be an argument that Box of Delights takes place in the Doctor Who universe because the second Doctor's in it. Patrick Troughton's in it. And there's this debate, and there was a podcast saying, but why can't we just have two wonderful things instead of one? And why does everything have to be squeezed into this box or that box? Let's just have two lovely boxes. And I kind of feel a bit about that with Blake 7 and Doctor Who. So I'm going to be very, very boring and say I would have loved both. I do love the idea of it there being Daleks in it, as there are in your wonderful games.
Well remembered, sir. Well remembered.
I remember things. That sounds vaguely ominous, doesn't it? But why can't they be separate as well?
Yeah.
So,
that piece with games and Daleks. I mean, that was the fault of good old Floppy Lion out there on Twitter and Bob Rushy. In a boring lockdown summer, both of them got talking about this whole Dalek Star One crossover thing, and you're stuck trapped in your home with nothing better to do. And I'd never made a Dalek in a game before, so there was a lot of googling my vague memory of what Daleks actually was shaped like, looked like, and did. But beyond that, it was dare I say, it was quite easy to reverse engineer the game and pop them in. But it's one of those things that I've kind of I've got stuck with now. It became such a thing that when I moved into sort of making the current sort of 3D platform, one of the first things I did was I'm going to model me a Dalek, and stuff it in there as an Easter egg somewhere. And that was one of those brainwaves where you think, why did I even try that? That's 2 days of my life gone. So I'm trying to cut down on those things I think are good ideas that turn into
good ideas are nothing but trouble, aren't they?
Honestly, they are. I need somebody here with a leash on me controlling these good ideas I have.
Yes, indeed.
We'll waste a week and then I end up rolling them back. So yeah. But listen, Robin, it's been fantastic to have you on the mic.
It's a pleasure
I wanted
to
talk to you in the flesh for a long old time. Ever since we met quite early days of me joining Twitter, really, and you've always been such a fantastic and vocal supporter of the games. my quirky little
Yeah,
bits and
no,
pieces. So
it's absolutely my pleasure. And thank you ever so much for inviting me and having a good old natter about the important things in life.
absolutely. Right. Well, thank you everybody out there for your continued support and listening to this podcast, indulging my fanboy ranting with other fanboys and girls. We'll see you soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.